To discuss the fallout of the security roundtable, we're joined by Major General Chris Olukolade, retired, the former Director of Defense Information. Thank you for joining us on Newsnight. So much to take away from that report by Ferdinand Duruoha, but let me bring it down to the issue of politicization, of insecurity. You know, we hear it's been highly politicized, this whole war against insecurity. What impact is it having on the war on terror? And how can you take the politics out of the war against insecurity?
Well, listening to the Chief of Defense Staff make it simple today, we can see that what he was emphasizing was the tendency to be partisan in analyzing issues, especially as and that call is very important as we approach electioneering campaign period. There's often the tendency to reduce every issue about security into issues of gaining advantage over the other political party. I think that's what he meant by politicization. It's not as if you can separate the two. However, the concern and where it affects the military more is when every action taken in advancing their security roles are given interpretations that are often meant to distract. We have such tendencies when we go into election campaigns. And that's why I say I think this is the right time to mention such caution.
All right. She, spoke a little bit about the question I'm going to ask you now. Funding for the security forces. Is it a question of not having enough funds or adequate funds, or a question of the misuse or the misdirection or the pilfering of these resources to get the armed forces the equipment they need to fight this war on insurgency and banditry and the rest of them?
Well, still referring to the roundtable conference of this morning, what you just mentioned came up, I think, one of the contributions. However, among the issues that the CDS raised as necessitating attention include the need for more emphasis on the military-industrial complex, prioritization of funding of the military, as well as the need to pay attention to resources within the system. Somebody brought up this issue of the necessity for funding, and I don't think it's new. Even the National Assembly have made an issue of it again and again, in the sense of calling attention to the enormity of what is required to drive both defense demands and security demands. During the conference, I made an illustration to clarify how expensive it is to pursue both defense and security issues. I illustrated, for instance, that when you are in mission and operation and you have the Air Force jets, maybe an Alpha jet just goes on a patrol for a while, maybe an hour or less. If you calculate the amount of fuel that goes into that movement, no matter how short, both the takeoff and the landing, and you assess the fund required, that's in multiples of millions of hundreds
of
dollars. The same with each bullet you expend. There's none that's less than 70 cents. And this amount I'm saying is not current.
Yeah.
Okay. So not even based on today's,
yes, it could be much higher.
Yeah. Well, the concern that the same lady refers to, that it's not like for lack of resources, but they're being mostly diverted. And the question is, the funds that are made available, billions of dollars, like you said, have they been properly accounted for? Are there systems even within the military to account for every bullet, every Alpha jet, every weapon that's used? And in addition to that, what would you say is the most crucial in hampering the efficiency of the military in the war against terror?
Well, if the issues identified are to be taken to this question, you mentioned the politicization. I will still go back to that.
Great.
And the reason is because it affects the interpretation of actually, even at the end, there was another illustration I made. When we talk of resources, we talk mainly of human resources. Now, we're talking of boots on ground. We mentioned that this morning. That is the soldiers that we have on the front. There was a time in this country that the agitation was on what do we need the soldiers for? There's no war. And why then do we have, what do we need plenty of soldiers? Demobilize them. And so there was massive demobilization. Now when insurgency came and the need for the military to intervene came, and we had less than the numbers required up to today. And to make up for that number would involve a lot of things, which the CDS also explained during this conference, that you don't make a soldier in one day.
No, you don't.
So you also retrain. A lot of work goes into training and retraining to cope. And it's not, by the way, the insecurity we addressed today was not just about insurgency, armed robbery, kidnapping, all the security issues were brought up, and the insurgency is not it all. The concern is these are not the basic roles of the military. The first responders in internal security situations, the police and other agencies, but along the line, the military was brought into it. This will call for resources beyond the usual expectations and demand.
All right. I wish we could have asked you some more questions about the synergy of all the armed forces, but let's leave it there because of time. Major General retired Chris Olukolade, thank you for being on the program.
Thank you.